Grip 6 manufactures amazing belts, wallets, and wool socks. And did you know they have unlimited replacements for life? Check out their chess-themed merchandise at grip6.com/chess and use code CHESS20 for 20% off your next order.
Hey everybody, it's Grandmaster Ben Finegold here, again with the game of the day from the candidates. I think it's round 9. Is that right? 7? Yeah. Okay. And this was pretty clearly the game of the day. And it was a really nice strategical game. I don't want to give away the result. You might already know the result, but I won't give it away now. Okay, so it's Giri is white against Wang Hao, and Giri has 50%, and I think Wang Hao, I don't remember how many points he had, but he either had 50% or -1. So these guys are both still in the hunt before this game. Okay, so they played a Catalan, which we haven't seen since the restart, yesterday. G3. When my former student, Matt Larson, plays the Catalan, which he always does, he plays G3. And the reason is you stop certain variations of the Benoni and the Queen's Indian. After knight F3, Wang could have played B6 and played a Queen's Indian. But okay, D5 is the most common, G3, so we've transposed. And they played, I'd say, the most common main line, which is DC, Queen C2, A6. Now, in this position, super grandmasters used to only play Queen takes C4 and then B5, attacking the Queen, and Bishop B7. And there's unbelievable amount of theory, and they still play it. One grandmaster in particular told me, you got to play A4, because if black plays B5, Bishop B7, he should equalize. And here, he wasn't so sure. So it wasn't Giri who told me, but I don't play the Catalan with either side, but I think A4 is the best way to try to get an advantage. You stop B5. So it's very difficult for black to get his pieces out, and this bishop is fantastic. It's the Catalan bishop. Okay, so Wang Hao played the normal way, which is to, instead of fianchettoing his bishop, just playing bishop d7 to c6, like we do in a Fort Knox French defense, which I play with black. And the knight has d7. The bishop is fantastic. The knight's good. So the position's about equal. Most people like white a little more because white has more space in the center. The d4 pawn is controlling some squares in black's position, and e6 pawn's sort of passive. Okay, and usually in queen's pawn openings and in the Catalan, black tries to get in c5 at some point, and that's difficult with the bishop on c6. So white's slightly better. Okay, and they played one of the main lines. For lower rated players, it doesn't make a lot of sense to allow what black did here. But I've told my students in the past, pawn structure isn't as important as piece activity, and double pawns aren't necessarily bad. Double pawns are fine. And that's what happened. So black wasted a lot of time. He played bishop here, and then traded. And white has a grip on e5. I don't see how black's going to get rid of that grip. So the knight can go to e5 whenever it wants. And my rooks are ready to go in the center. And, black's a little passive. So black's passive and solid. And basically, he's thinking a draw would be a good result. He has the black pieces. Okay. Okay, he played a5. This is typical in the Catalan when white plays an early a4 because you control the b4 square. He can't play a3. So you can play knight a6 to b4, for example. And now black has a choice of where to develop his knight. So a5 is pretty standard. If you never play a5, white could play b4, b5 and get some space. Okay, e3, solidifying his pawn structure. Great. Knight a6, knight e5. As I said, that e5 square is pretty good. They traded, and c6. And this is all theory, and white has a slight advantage. White's knight on e5 is a fantastic piece. White's pawn structure is really good for controlling the center. You might argue that even though the knight can go to b4, what's it doing here? And why can't black move any of his pawns? If black wants to go forward, I don't see how. But white can go forward. So white's slightly better, but probably no big deal yet. Not yet. Okay, he played h3, putting it in h. He wants to get a safe square for his king and stops the knight from ever coming in here. It's a very slow move. Okay, so the engine thinks it's about equal. Queen b6, not the engine's favorite move. It wants to transfer the knights. Either play knight here, attacking the queen, and the knight controls all these squares, or just knight b4 where the knight belongs. But he played queen b6, sort of pretending to attack b2, but we saw yesterday anybody who played queen takes b2 lost, so very risky. Okay, I'm not a fan of queen b6 because after queen e2, which defends the pawn and probably more importantly gives the c4 square to the knight. That's an excellent square for the knight, and it puts pressure on the weak a pawn, forces the queen away. So queen b6 is probably a little inaccurate. Okay, finally he got in c5, but he's giving away the b5 square, and his knight is still bad on a6. So still better for white. Rook d1, obviously he wants to defend his d-pawn. And Wang figured he could probably draw the game by just trading. The pawn structure is pretty much the same. 4 against 4, 2 against 2. All right. So he played rook d8, let the trades commence. Everybody's trading. Probably the reason he played queen takes instead of rook takes, there's a couple of reasons, but it seems like after rook takes, queen b5, it's very hard to play a move for black. If you trade queens, your knight's attacked and your a-pawn's attacked. Your queen's attacked. And, white just has fantastic pieces. And unfortunately, this knight's still on a6. So that's not so good. So you play queen takes d8, computer recommended. Rook d1, queen a8. I'm not a fan of queen a8, but I don't think that's the losing move. But I just don't like my queen on a8. That's very passive. So that's another move that I think is a minor mistake. Obviously, he wants to do some kind of discovered check. So Anish moves his king away from the diagonal, very safe. The knight finally goes to b4, and then queen b5. So this looks like it should be a draw. It probably should be, but it's obviously better for white. If nothing else, my queen on b5 is a lot better than your queen on a8. A lot better. And my knight on e5 is great. And I have the open file. I have some really small advantages. And, I have a lot of them. Okay, so again, it's the trading has to commence, knight d5. And here, Wang thought for a while because both moves have their disadvantages. And I think the main problem with e takes d5, he didn't play that, is knight d7. And then, I don't know how you're going to defend all these pawns. That seems, you got to play rook d8, obviously. And this just looks terrible for black. All these pawns are under attack. And the queen is terrible, and the d pawn's pinned. I don't know. I don't like black here. So, the pawn's attacked right now. If you play b6 to defend it, then your pawn's hanging. So this is a bad position for black. I'm not saying the other way is not bad, but Wang decided that was worse, and the engine agrees. Played knight takes d5, still within the drawing zone, but very good chances for white to win. Rook c1, excellent. Wants to control the c file now that the d file is blocked. And the problem with rook c8 challenging the file is the queen is overworked. So rook c8, we take it, and the a5 pawn's hanging. So he played h6, getting luffed. I agree. Queen d7, infiltrating. You can't move the rook now at all because the queen takes f7. So it's pretty obvious white has a big advantage here. And one thing I wanted to point out is there's certain styles for certain players. And I can name some people off the top of my head who I think are really good at defending worse positions. Petrosian when he was world champion, Karpov when he was world champion, Leko when he was active. Giri, for example, Nakamura, Carlsen, and I was thinking there was one more that I thought, wow, when they're worse and they're defending and it's hard to make a draw, they're really good at that. And that's an underrated skill, because when you watch somebody who's worse in draws, you're not so excited. You're like, eh. But, all those extra half points you get 4 or 5 times a year, that could be 20, 30 rating points. That could be winning tournaments instead of coming in second. Now, the reason I gave you that long spiel is Wang Hao, not known for that. Maybe Wang Yui is. But Wang Hao is known for attacking and calculating and outplaying you. He's a front runner. He likes to have the advantage and press you. So Wang Hao defending this is not his bread and butter. Okay, hopefully it's vegan butter. Knight f6, saying, telling the queen get out, and he gets out, but d6 is a good square. g6. Now, in my opinion, this is the losing move, and the mistakes he made before were tiny. This is a big mistake. And a friend of mine from 30 years ago, Bulgarian Grandmaster Evgeny Yermenkov, told me, Ben, don't ever move pawns, ever. And this is an example of what he was talking about. You can't put the pawn back on g7. So when you make a pawn move, you can't retract it. That's your move. If you make a knight move, a queen move, a rook move, you can just take it back, go somewhere else. And this weakens this diagonal and the king position, and Giri plays brilliantly to take advantage of just that. It's very hard to play black here. You basically have to do nothing. You got to just chill and hope the guy doesn't beat you. But this makes beating you easier because you're causing yourself some problems. Okay, I was really impressed with Giri's next move. In my opinion, which I think nobody will share, no grandmaster will agree, this is the best move of the game. Because you have to have a lot of forethought to play this. He played b3, and you're like, b3, why are you impressed with that? The reason I'm impressed with it is it's clear that Giri saw his queen was going to go here, putting pressure, and if it got attacked, he can go safely to the b2 square. That's why he played b3. Now, it also defends his a pawn, so saves the tempo sometimes. Not as important. Okay, h5, put it in h. He gets his king extra safe. Queen d4 and queen b2. And I'm sure Wang Hao wishes he could play king g8, pawn g7 now and be safe, but you can't. He played g6 already. So this is a permanent not good. Okay, he finally got his queen off of a8. b4 is another genius move. Black is stuck here, so now I can work you over on the queen side. Very Karpovian. He wins on one side of the board, and he wins on the other side of the board. And most people don't think like that. Obviously, super grandmasters do. They think when they're winning on one side, they got to keep winning. They don't think about other things. And that's what, one of the things that differentiates super grandmasters from potters like me. So b4 is great. And after he takes, he plays another brilliant move, rook c4. He wants to take the pawn, and then he's got pressure everywhere. Here. Black's in a lot of trouble. Okay. And b3 is a mistake. He should have played b6. The problem is, after rook takes, he can't defend b7. You can't play rook d7 because of the knight. So you want to play b6 so you have chances of defending your pawn. Knight d5 or rook d6 at some point. So b3 is extra losing. And now there's no hope. And the Giri really wrapped up the game really well. Queen a7. This was a very funny moment for a super grandmaster. Wang Hao played queen a7, had his hand on his queen, put it on a8, then put it on a7, and then let go. So the DGT was confused because the queen keeps going in different squares. But Wang Hao had less than a minute for the last 10 moves of this game, so he's just trying to find a move. Okay, now this is a paradoxical decision for you guys, but for Super Grandmaster, like Hess, for example, doing commentary for Chess.com, he was like, yeah, rook takes b3 instead of queen takes. And even though rook takes b3 gives away the A pawn, this is much more important. It's also important to defend the 7th rank so we don't get counterplay on F2. None of this kind of stuff. None of this kind of stuff. So the queen here is much better for 2 reasons, and the A pawn doesn't matter because the F pawn, that's the pawn. And the only move that looks reasonable at all is rook F8, and that just loses instantly to knight G7, that resigns. The knight's pinned, the rook's attacked, the knight's attacked, resigns. So Wang Hao instantly played the computer recommended move, queen E8. Now, a lot of people like to cash in, but black can't move here. If it was black's turn to move, he would just pass. There's nothing he can do. And so you could take this and have a queen and pawn for a rook and a knight. It's very hard to win with pawns on all sides of the board. If I was a betting man, I would say white's winning, but very difficult. If you take this and do this, this is pretty good drawing chances for black. I would think white would win, but it might take like 50 moves. Giri decided to double up on the bubble up. He played rook A7, and here comes queen B7. So that was his point. And then what do? Well, it didn't work out well for him. So rook A7 is excellent. Rook C7 is also excellent with the idea of playing queen B7. Now, in this position, if black plays rook B8 with the intention of stopping queen B7, white has this really beautiful move, queen C2. And the reason it's beautiful is you want to go here, aforementioned, but now we have a very sneaky threat. Queen takes G6 check because the F pawn is pinned. So you got to stop this and you got to stop this. Good luck. Now, another funny point is, let's say you go here, stopping this. Instead of here, we can now take, and the idea is we have queen C7 check, winning. So rook B8 is unplayable. So he played rook D5. Now his rook is super safe. Queen B7, knight here. Queen takes wins, knight takes wins, but knight takes is better because white wants to keep the big pieces on the board so he can checkmate black. And now black resigned, the only move. If you don't resign, it's going to get ugly. And when I was watching the game live, I thought knight C5 was the only move. But then I realized queen B2 check, and then I resigned. I'm like, ooh, that's not good. So this is dead lost. I want to say a perfect game by Giri. Probably wasn't perfect, but close enough. And Wang Hao was slightly worse, and then clearly worse, and then lost. And Giri beat him like he was the clearly superior player, which is, a really good achievement in the candidates. So an excellent game from Anish Giri. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Probably not as much as Anish enjoyed it, but now he's fighting for first again. So a great game, the game of the day. Thanks for watching. Make sure you follow the candidates. And, Chess.com's Twitch page has Wesley So and Vishy Anand and Danny Wrench and Robert Hess and Faruja. So many good commentators. And I enjoy watching it, especially Anand and So. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.